I understand, became one of the first tenants of the office building when the office building was built in 1949. Is that correct?
Yes, I think, I know I was the first one in that particular office over there, because I came in and went in and told Mr. Nasrallah how I'd like to have it fixed, and we fixed it that way, and there wasn't any walls up or floor down or anything, and he fixed it for me, and I moved in.
Well, our understanding is that after he built the one-story building on the corner, that the Great Depression came, and it was a long time before there was any more building. And then about 1949, he then went and built the two-story building behind the one-story building, which extended another 200 feet down Park Street. David Hansford did another painting over there, which shows how it looked in 1949, which would have been about the time that you came and rented an office in the two-story building.
Yeah.
Does that look fairly similar?
Yeah. Now, before World War II came the Great Depression. And I remember that. Real estate went sky high, and all of a sudden you couldn't sell it.
That sounds familiar.
Oh, exactly. And I told my wife about a year ago, I said, this is exactly what happened in 29.
Well, it took them 22 years to build again, so 1949.
Yeah, and then the Great Depression was ended by World War II. I don't mean by the time World War II started. It was what ended the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went through high school at Lee and off to college, and man, it was tight. I didn't spend but $810 my whole first year in college.
Was that at Vanderbilt?
At Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee, and that includes travel back and forth, and includes fraternity fees and book fees and all kind of.
Which fraternity were you in?
I was a Sigma Nu, still am.
Well, that's
The
great.
snake.
Well, you had an outstanding academic career, I believe, at Vanderbilt undergraduate. I understand you were a Phi Beta Kappa, is that correct?
Yes. They had a system where you could go 3 years to pre-med and 4 years to medicine, but they had it fixed so that the senior year could be classified either as medical school or just senior in absentia. So I got the Phi Beta Kappa after I was in medical school, but I earned it as a student. That was a purposeful thing. I was sitting around in a big chemistry class, horsing around with my buddies and giggling and laughing, and it suddenly occurred to me that my folks were at home canceling magazine subscriptions and eating light and putting me to school. So I quit all that fooling around, moved to the front row of classes, and really went to work. And it was rare for me to get anything lower than a B. So A's and B's were what I did.
And I understand when you went to medical school at Vanderbilt, you were also excelled in academics.
Yes, they have a similar thing to Phi Beta Kappa, and it's called Alpha Omega Alpha, AOA. And I was an AOA too.
So when did you graduate from medical school?
42.
And when did you marry your wife?
42. The next day.
And then what happened to your career?
Well, I had to do a year internship. Vanderbilt had an ROTC for the doctors. one of 25 in the whole country. So when I got my degree, a MD, I automatically was a first lieutenant in the medical corps. And so I had my degree in 42, and my my license. Now, what do you call it when you get in the Army? I got one of those. Commission. And so at the end of the year, I was taken off and told how they do things in the Army.
Well, then, where did you do your pediatric residency?
At Vanderbilt.
So when did you come back to Florida, to Jacksonville, to practice medicine?
49.
And then you came, was this the first office building that you looked at?
Yeah.
To,
The only one.
well, what was it that made you wanted to locate your office on Whiteway Corner in the Nazarella building?
Well, I wanted an office. In those days, it was important to put your office on a public transportation route, because most people didn't have a car, and they couldn't come to the doctor any other way besides a bus, sometimes a streetcar. Now, by then, 49, Park Street had a bus system on it, public transportation. And the streetcar was right down there on Oak Street, 2 blocks away. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have it here, because it was a brand new building and I could get it in. Space was hard to find. And so I didn't want to go in with any established guy. And so I decided that I ought to be out here on this traffic lane and rural enough to where somebody wouldn't have to have parking and then pay the parking garage and all of that stuff to get to my office.
So how did you find out the office was available for rent?
I don't remember that. I must have just come down here.
And did you meet Mr. Nazarella?
Yeah,
Now, which Mr. There were two,
Yeah.
weren't there?
yeah. A younger brother who did most of the legwork, and then old A. Nazarella, who did most of the whatever other work there was, but he didn't run down to get this at the post office and that at the, he was right here most of the time. And he was walking around with a yardstick and a piece of paper, string paper like a tape measure, and he'd hold it up to the air conditioner ducts to see if it was blowing right. Then he would adjust the air conditioner. He could turn it on up and down, and which he did at request most of the time.
What was he like as a person?
Oh, he was he was a character. He was a big talk, big acts, and a typical big man with the big man ideas. And he was a good guy. I liked him.